Hello. Today we're looking at something a little bit different. Rather than the Batman miniature game that we've been looking at over the last few weeks, we've got a new superhero game coming out in the next month or so, which everyone is excited about and well worth the hype from what I can see from all of the various reports. And once it comes out, well and truly, it'll be discussed and investigated. So I thought I might as well look at the existing game. The existing hero game at the moment that's the superhero game of choice. So at the moment, there was a Marvel universe through Night Models, which has become the DC Universe miniature game. And the rules are available online. There's also a new hardback, which includes a number of different FAQs and a few other bits and pieces, as well as a showcase, and a lot more on how to run the game and some more ideas on scenarios and terrain, etc. So they haven't received that yet, but at this stage, the rules online are still good to be used. So the first thing we're going to look at is just a brief rundown on the game and having a look at one of the cards. So the card we're looking at today is the Superman from the movie, the Justice League movie Superman. This is sort of what the card looks like in its entirety. So this is what the card looks like in its entirety, and it's got the various sections within the general card. Picture of the hero, we have the name of what the hero is known as well as the alias, and you can only have one alias, so you only have one Kal-El, but he could take different forms. You could have multiple Batmen, but only one Bruce Wayne. The stats. This is how you work out the point system within the system. The affiliation. Blue Justice League logo means hero. There's a red for the Injustice League, and you'll sometimes have another one for Green Lantern Corps, the Crime Syndicate, and so on. You can put them together however you want, but there are bonuses for putting together groups and teams in the same way, made of the same group. Special abilities or skills that are available. Defenses, you have to score equal to or higher. We'll go through that in a few moments. This is where the attacks go. Now the different colours on the frequencies. Green means you can use it all the time, so Supes can super punch for 4 power every single attempt, so you can do it as many times as you can afford to have the power. And he has an overload bonus, which we'll go through in a few moments, and there are some other effects within the attack. This bluish colour means once per turn, so only once per turn. So he spends his 2 power, he gets to use it, but then he can follow it up with a punch if he wishes to. Super attack, and so on. The super breath has a special range. These other ones have like physical within hand-to-hand combat, a range of 2 to 10, range of sort of a punch but with a range of 3, and that expansive one, that sort of wave, a thing that looks like the a Wi-Fi signal. That uses this tool. So this is at the base of the model in the direction that it's going, and it can be positioned at any angle, and it affects everything within the that covering. So it includes like that. So if you're attacking something in a building, you could hit something there at the top as well as something on the next level down, and so on. So it's a little bit more three-dimensional in its attack. It's about the same as a normal spray template from the Batman miniature game, but it's just got that 3D element to it. Something that is quite good, almost every piece of scenery is capable of being used as a weapon, and that's why strength is important here. So we'll go through some attributes while we're at this point. So power is the number of power tokens or power points you get in a single at the beginning of every round. Sometimes, when you're fully healthy, you will get a bonus. So fully healthy, Soups gets a +1 to attack. This Soups gets a +1 to attack. So his attack value becomes 7. Under speed, you've got 3 values here because he can fly. Walk, run, and fly. And they use up 1, 2, and 3 power points, respectively. And that's in inches, so he can walk 4 inches or walk 4 inches for 1 power point. 2 takes him to run at 8, and 3 gets him to fly at 15. His strength 6, when he's picking something up, he can pick up a 6-size object. Now the objects are in a sliding scale, so something like a small house is considered about a size 6, with a skyscraper being a size 8. There's affiliation there. Agility, stamina, and willpower. So these come into play when you're making saving throws. Size 2, that's just a normal human size. And most characters fit within that size 2. Though you will get larger characters, Bane and such, that are 3s, and Doomsdays and Darksides, which are size 4. The skills, I won't go through all of the skills. Suffice to say that obviously he has a weakness to kryptonite, and he has a strong resistance to most things. So you'll notice that he's got resistance 2, so all damage to physical and energy attacks are reduced by 2. Which means punching himself, or slapping yourself, Soups, goes from 3 to 1. 1 point of damage. Which is pretty reasonable when you look at the number of points here. So this is him healthy, the grey zone. From here down is the not so healthy. So this is almost like shades of wounds. So here he's good to go. Once he's in this light zone going to the dark zone, he's not good. And down here in the dark zone you can see he's got -1 to all defenses, -1 to his power, -1 to his attack. So he's really crawling at this point. And special effects happen around here. So you start to potentially become unconscious. Sometimes these zones are large and small depending, they're not in a specific scale. So the game itself is played much like the Batman miniature game, if you're familiar with that. If you're not familiar with the Batman miniature game, then this game is a little bit different to most other forms of games that are being played on the skirmish tabletop. It's still a 3x3, so it's a kitchen top table size. Setting up terrain is obviously key. You need to make sure that you've got fully loaded buildings and terrain pieces that can be moved and destroyed if necessary, as in removed off the game, or picked up and thrown. Cars, SWAT vans are always good. What we're looking at is, rather than the D6 being used, DC Universe uses D8s. So when we saw the attack value of Superman before, roll 2, D8, add them together, add the attack value, and that has to equal or better the defense of the target. Keeping in mind that 8, 9, and 10s on a 2d8 make up something along the lines of 34% of all rolls. So if you've got a high attack value, you've got a better chance. Many of the defences are around the 14 to 16. Some of the higher defences are up to 18. If we look back at Supes, he's got 15s. So what we're looking at here with the defences, physical, and this is where we look at this type of attack. The nature of the attack is a physical, and it does bludgeoning damage. It's an energy, it's a beam attack. Physical, and then you've got energy, and it's a cold attack. If someone has a weakness to cold, they'll take more damage. If they've got a resistance to cold, they'll take less damage. So physical, 15 for Supes. And remember, he also has a resistance of damage reduction. Energy, mystical, supernatural, magical, mental. So Superman is quite susceptible to magic, more so than many of the others, which plays well within the actual scope of the DC lore, where Supes is always picked on by Mxyzptlk or Zatanna, or give him a magical brew that'll make him drunk or something. Affiliation, Justice League, 18 points, or level 18. So how does this equate to, say, the Batman miniature game? Well, there's a Batman model that's worth about 150 points in the Batman miniature game, and that's out of 350. And in this game is worth level 10. So that's the rough guide. Games are usually 40 or 50 points. The ones I've seen are based around 50 points, but we've played sometimes a bit less depending on what models are available and what people can play. But for the most part, 50 levels is up to the top. There's the Sword of Rao group, because this is, we might as well talk about the teams. So you have team cards. So whilst Zod, Faora and Nam are considered bad guys and can go with any bad guy individually, together they make the Sword of Rao. And as it says here, all models with this team gain +1 power and rage 3 when a friendly model, etc., makes an attack, and so on. So this is just when a team using the team card must include the following characters. Those three add up to 50. So in the movie, when Supes is fighting all three of them, let's go back to that, 18, and they make up 50. So Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman roughly make 50 points. Might be just slightly under, just enough to get a Green Arrow in there or something. Other teams, Crime Syndicate. So that was a series within the Justice League comic when Earth 3 villains, who were almost carbon copies of the alternate carbon copies of the Justice League, and Ultraman, Superwoman, Owlman, with Ultraman being an equivalent to Superman, Superwoman being the equivalent to Wonder Woman, and Owlman being, well, sort of Batman. And that's the Justice League. So they provide bonuses for the teams. All right, so what we'll have a look at is, very quickly, won't bother laying out the board and putting it all together, because it's just easier to run through how it sort of works. It's really not a complex game, which is one of the benefits for this. If you're familiar with the more simpler superhero games like HeroClix, this is a couple of steps up. It's you've still got to put the models together and paint them just like the other miniature games, but in terms of move and everything else, it takes points and has the asset management of your power. Anyway, so here we go. So this is Hal Jordan, Lex Luthor, roughly equal. Lots of attacks, a couple of powers. So the red ones mean you can only use it once per game, remember? And the green ones mean you can use it as often as you want, as long as you can pay for it. And the bluish ones are once per turn. Sometimes the once per turns will say this can be your only action, and sometimes they'll say, yeah, you can do something else. Such as the blunt instrument. This model can use a free grab and throw on a target. Still costs a 3 power, but he can do it once per turn, and then he can still do a normal grab and throw as well on top of that, according to the FAQ. And that's where, but he's considered to have the throw of 4. So this is where you look at agree on what size things are. 4s are about the size of about a car. Throwing cars around is about size 4. So this is where that sliding scale, moving up to a small house in trucks, big trucks goes to 5. He gets +1 power, fully kitted. It's 1 attack and 1 stamina. So the game turn works out. The first thing you do is assign your power. He's 8, +1 because he's uninjured. So he's 9. You have to keep track of this. Luthor is 8. So working out who goes first in the turn, very similar to the bats in the Batman game, in that you put tokens inside a bag and pull them out. However, the difference is if you agree on the number of the game, so if you have a 6-turn game, which most games are, then you put in each 6 tokens, and then you pull out a random one. So there's still that chance that you will get more activations than your opponent. So from here, you can then act, move, fly, fire your weapons, do the effects, and then do your cleanup, and then you start again. It's very simple by comparison to the Batman miniature game, but we'll just run through something quickly. So he's going to do an offensive construct. He's got a range of 8. Spends 3 power. So his 9 goes to 6. Has to beat a 15. Rolls a 3. Plus his attack, which is 7 at the moment. So 10 fails. He can then move. He decides to fly, which takes him to 3 tokens. And he'll save. What you can do is you can save your power points to boost up your defense if you get attacked. So you can spend a token, which will then boost 1 of your defenses to give it a few extra points. Or if he needs to do a force field, which he can do once per game, and so on. So Luthor does something similar. what you can also do is decide to overload. So if he's going to launch an attack, he's going to do an energy blast, which is 3, but he's going to overload, which means it costs him an extra point. So now he's down to 4. Because he's adding an extra power to the energy blast, and his option, or what he can do, is add an extra dice. So he rolls the dice, makes 15 flat on the dice roll, plus his attack, more than likely exceeds, and he gets to go forward from there with the damage, which he gets adjusted and so on if necessary. So you might say, why would you overload? In this game, if you roll 2 numbers that are the same, then it's a crit, and if there's any critical components, they get affected. These are just automatic effects from the attack. But if you have a critical attack, then that comes into play, and the damage is also increased by 1. Alright, so we might run through a little bit more of something in a sec. Take it from there. Alright, we're back looking at the Superman here. Notice it says strength 6. We've got a chart which tells us small houses, tanks, jets, fighters, and so on. Strength 6. So he can pick up a small house and fire it off. Skyscrapers and castles are 8+. City buildings are 7. Big grain silos. So it's a very much a sliding scale. It's not as small as, it's not an even linear progression. Street furniture, motorcycle, man-sized objects 1 to 2. That's why the size of a person is 2. So you can pick up a person and throw a person as long as you have a strength of 2. If you have a strength of 2, you can pick up Superman and chuck him, and you're only going to take him as far as your strength and as goes. So Green Lantern physically can pick up Superman and physically throw Superman 4 inches, where Supes takes a little bit of damage, which probably amounts to nothing in the end. Cars, trees, garden sheds, shelters, 3s and 4s, and so on. So when trucks, school buses. So trucks, school buses and light aircraft are 5. So cars, trees and gardens are 3 to 4. So this is the 3 to 4 is the one I was saying where the Green Lantern can use his ring to pick something up and hurl it. It's treated as strength 4. So he can pick up a small car, throw it 8 range, and when it hits someone, it does 5 damage. And potentially knocking them down. But in most cases, you agree with your opponent as to what's going to be movable and not movable. But for the most part, everything can be destroyed. You can either punch it, knock it down, throw somebody into it where it gets damaged, and so on. Very superheroic. Okay, so hopefully this has sort of put a few things together. As I said, this is the online rules. So it comes with a few scenarios, and all of the special abilities and everything are listed inside the rule books. I'm not going to go through all of them. It's the big 3. But the way that they're laid out, you can see that the maps are quite ingenious. Oops, sorry. Moisture sticking the paper together. Very professional. Very professional. So on. So you've got search and destroy missions, you've got objectives, victory points, and so on. So they're just markers to be collected. It's not like in Batman where the markers can do something, unless you want to do it that way, where you have a Titan counters, where if you have it, mother boxes which allow you to increase your willpower or something. So you'll have different victory conditions based on the rule set. And it's quite interesting when you have rifts that open up so that they can travel between the different rifts. So it pops up there and here, so you can use them as doorways to the different parts of the thing. So they do their best to try and make everything a little bit more interesting. And the new rulebook has many. There's 18, I believe, was the count of the types of missions available. So that's a brief overview, really, of the DC Universe game. The miniatures are obviously excellent. The gameplay is pretty good. In terms of scale, you're not going to have any cops and robbers type work. That's very much the Batman miniatures game. As I said before, if you have a Batman model that's worth 150 rep in the Batman miniature game, but is only 10 levels here in the DC Universe, that's a massive power slide. So general police and normal criminal thugs, they don't get much of a rate. This is really between the heroes and villains, so much more about the last few bits of comic book pages, the Justice League Unlimited style TV show, and so on, where they're looking at the big things and facing off against each other. Lex Luthor in his war suit, as opposed to just Lex Luthor in charge of 5 goons. And there are new models on their way, from what we've seen, but that's all to be details later, as usual. And as I said, with the new miniatures game coming up that's also superhero based, in case the people haven't heard about the Marvel one, and which is looking interesting, and that will be well worth an idea of comparison, because previously this was the system only available for superheroes, besides something as limited as HeroClix, which is another system that we can go through later if people want to go through that. But the DC Universe game does have its benefits, and it's got a good solid system running off the back of the Batman miniature game in a similar way. Alright, so hopefully this helps, and hopefully people like this one. It's just more of a one-shot more than anything, but if somebody wants to see how a game fully is played out between 5 or 6 heroes, because it's again a low-powered skirmish game when you've got 3 or 4 characters of 10 and 11, you're looking at crews of 5, maybe 6 characters maximum. So we can easily put a game together, that's not a problem, to highlight some extra pieces. But anyway, so hopefully everything is to everyone's liking, and if you do like this, that's good. And if you do want to see more, even better. And I hope that it's cleared up a few things. And as like all things, comments and questions are fully welcome, and I can try and answer, or at least direct to where items are. Alright, thank you very much.